What you are about to watch is an exclusive interview. You may have seen my video from a few days right before Christmas about the Blackwater Massacre, the 4 men that Trump just pardoned. The media tells us that these 4 men shot and fired into a crowd of innocent civilians, killing 17 and injuring another 20. But the thing is, that's not really what happened. Our media is, in many cases, outright lying to us, mostly hiding information, and keeping secrets because the U.S. State Department does not want the fallout. These 4 men were convicted of crimes they did not commit in order to be political fall guys to help ease relationships between the United States and Afghanistan. These 4 men were betrayed by their country, and now the truth is coming out. You are about to watch an exclusive interview with a man who was close to the situation, arrived in Afghanistan immediately following, and knows many of the people who were also involved. He talks about many things that are not public knowledge, and for the purposes of national security, I cannot reveal his name. So, with one exception, this video is unedited, except for the first 15 seconds, which I had to remove because I cannot reveal this man's name because his identity cannot be revealed. The U.S. State Department doesn't want anyone that was in Afghanistan involved or worked for Blackwater at the time talking about this incident because they don't want they don't want to see the ramifications. So, with all that being said, please share this video with all of your friends. This is an exclusive interview. No one else has access to this information, except for the media tech overlords that don't want you to know it. Without further ado, enjoy this interview.
Great meeting you, man. Yeah.
All right, so I just got a few questions for you regarding the Nisour Square Massacre. Could you start by just telling me kind of how familiar with the incident you are, and how you know so much about it and all that fun stuff?
Sure. Okay, so I arrived at Baghdad in May of '08, working for Blackwater as a diplomatic bodyguard contract to the State Department, like all of us were. Now, the Raven Team 2-3 was my sister unit. So I was on Raven 2-2. And it's a call sign for a unit. It belongs to what's called a TST unit, which stands for Tactical Support Team.
Okay.
Those teams are the teams that when you get in trouble, when you get attacked, you call up.
Right.
It's about 4 or 5 vehicles with about 5 guys on each vehicle. Each vehicle is equipped. They're armored vehicles. They're equipped with. Each vehicle has one 240 Bravo machine gun, one 249 machine gun. Everyone else is carrying M4s. One of those M4s will have an M203 grenade launcher on it. We had to know what happened, but also guys that were on that team, they all told us, when you're on a camp of just nothing but 1,000 guys, they're going to talk to us, say, hey, this is what happened, the news had it wrong, stuff like that.
Right.
So all the stories were very consistent. So that's like no one's story changed between everyone, told the same story.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I believe what I was told. Even though that happened, I think, in November of '07, I got there, like I said, about 5-6 months after it.
Right.
And we still had guys that were there, but they were not. They didn't shoot. Only those 4 were actually shot out of the vehicles. But they were responding to a unit. Now, one of the units got attacked. They went to go respond. They did ask for permission to leave the green zone.
Mm-hmm.
Fox said no. Well, they left anyway.
Okay.
So that is controversial. That being said, I think anybody would have made the same decision.
Right.
It would be the equivalent of me being a police officer now. It's the equivalent of getting called to a domestic abuse call.
Uh-huh.
And this is standard in any department. You never respond alone.
Right.
But if you hear somebody screaming and getting beat, it's natural that you're going to go in and help, regardless if your backup is there or not.
Right.
That's the same thing. You know you're not supposed to do it, but you're doing it to help people.
Right.
So that's why they left, even though they were told not to.
Right. So I'm gonna pause you real quick. The official story is that these 4 men. Let me see. Is it pronounced Slow? Last name Slow?
Okay, those guys, yeah.
Slow, Liberty, Hurd, and Slatton. So the official story is that they fired into an innocent crowd of civilians, and they injured and they killed like 17 people and injured like another 20. And I'm talking about this now because Trump just pardoned all 4 of these guys. But like that's the official story, and I know that that's not actually what happened. So could you shed some light on what actually happened? Because like what you've said so far sounds like these guys wouldn't have been deployed, or they wouldn't have gone out unless there were already shots being fired, let alone they were shot at first.
And that's exactly what happened. They were shot at by Iraqi police. Now, this is something that was never said, but it's something that I know. And I think this, in my opinion, and again, this is my opinion, this whole thing was a huge misunderstanding. And here's why. They get to Nisour Square. A car bomb goes off. Now, what not a lot of people know is the way Iraqis as well as Afghanis, the way that they're trained is to shoot at explosions. I don't get it. I really don't. But they're trained to, when something blows up, you shoot at it.
Uh-huh.
Now, if Raven 2-3 was between the car bomb and the Iraqi police, they would have been shooting at the direction of Raven 2-3. In response, they would have thought they were under attack by the Iraqi police.
Wow.
And by the way, it is a thing to get attacked by Iraqi army or Iraqi police because anybody can go by the identical uniforms. They're not controlled at all in that country.
Right.
So you don't know if this is a real cop or not.
Right. So I know the.
You see why I say.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Well, you see, with my opinion, you see how it could have really just been misunderstanding where they each thought that they were being attacked.
Right. Yeah. Easy. That's easy to understand. So, I've been digging into this case pretty closely, and something that the families of these 4 men have been arguing is that evidence was hidden during the investigations and during the court cases. Are you familiar with Captain is it Deckaroo? Is that his last name?
I'm not familiar with him now.
Okay, so apparently he was the guy that did the initial taking of statements and all that fun stuff, and then apparently his the statements that he handed over to the State Department were all destroyed.
Okay, that one I was not. That would kind of make sense because if remember I told you that they were, when they gave their statements, they were all given immunity.
Right.
But then somehow that immunity was taken away. That would probably indicate why the statements were destroyed.
Okay. Yeah. So
because the statement would have on the statement that I'm making this statement under the grounds of immunity.
Right. Man,
so,
that's crazy. So how does this immunity thing work?
Okay, so basically, and this goes for anything criminal, if you go to the cops and say, okay, I want immunity for what I'm going to tell you, say someone got murdered, but you unknowingly helped. When you make your statement, you can wager to have it taken under immunity that even though you helped, they're not going to press charges on you. They want the guy that actually did the murder.
Right.
So, so when they gave their statement, originally it was under immunity, and somehow, and that was the question I've always had, is how can they take away the immunity? I mean, it's there in black and white, but if you said it was destroyed, that explains how they took the immunity away.
Okay. Yeah. And then something else that they've been saying is that the quote police were actually insurgents that were wearing police uniforms, and then they took off those uniforms after they started firing.
Yeah. Now, whether they took them off or not, I'm not sure. But I had not heard that. But as I mentioned before, that is a common thing, that you don't know if that's a real soldier or a real police officer, if this is a real checkpoint or not.
Right.
Until things go south, because anybody can get an AK-40. You can't get a pistol, but you can go get an AK-47, no problem.
Right.
And then, you throw on a uniform, and, everyone thinks you're a real police officer. We've had that problem before, where we've had checkpoints that weren't real checkpoints. But they were looking for Americans, mainly Blackwater guys, stuff like that. So,
right.
Yeah, that is completely possible. Now, as far as taking the uniforms off, that one I'm not sure of. I never heard that. But them being insurgents and attacking is a very possibility.
Wow, that's crazy. I didn't know all this stuff was happening over there.
Yeah, and it's still going on, actually.
Right. So I know one of the victims is of the incident was supposedly a little 9-year-old boy. Is that true?
That is a probability, because when you're shooting, there's collateral damage when there's civilians around.
Right.
So that is a possibility. I remember them saying something about. I was reading. I only read about half of it, but this was out of the news, that somebody pointed their sniper rifle out of a porthole. Now, the only vehicles with portholes would be the Bearcat. The problem is, GSP teams don't have sniper rifles because they don't have snipers.
Right.
So that right there is bull.
Not possible. Yeah.
They also said in the article that they shot on at a white Kia, which had a mother who was a doctor and her son who's going to medical school.
Right.
One thing that they always tend to do with the media is they tend to blow things up with proportions.
Right.
About how good the person was, and they were going to make this difference, and now they're dead, and this guy's a bad guy. What the article did not mention is the reason why that vehicle was shot up is because the Iraqi police were behind the vehicle, pushing it forward, using it for cover.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's insane.
Yeah, and that is, which kind of shows now. See, that would be a police tactic too. So it's still up in the air whether they're insurgents or not. And the reason why I say that is the police in Afghanistan and Iraq, both the same, they're different than here. If they don't want you to go somewhere the first to get your attention, they're going to crack you on the head with their nightstick.
Right.
If they want you to move your vehicle, they shoot in the air. They don't have a understanding that the bullet comes down somewhere.
Right.
This is just how they are. So it is very common. So it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for Iraqi police to try to use for their safety, use civilians as cover.
Right.
It's just something that they do. It's fine to them.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. I knew that Slow had admitted to killing the Kia driver, but then Nick Slatton was charged with the murder. And
I'm almost sure there was something about and I had read an article when this came out, because in 2008 everyone was reading it, that one of them used a 203 grenade launcher. I know it's because when they read the charges, they read it. The grenade launcher is called an M203, but the charges from the Department of Justice called it an M203 grenade launcher. There's no such thing, No, that's like the 240 Bravo machine gun. They called it M240 Bravo. There's whoever wrote up the charges
didn't know what they were talking about.
Was never in the military.
Right.
Yeah, they don't know.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, and we all knew. And just to tell you, for instance, Eric Prince had these guys. They all had legal counsel paid for by Blackwater. Now, if they thought they had done something wrong, they would have hung them out to dry.
Right.
I honestly believe that this was one case where State Department just needed a sacrificial lamb.
Right. Yeah.
And
they were fall guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, Liberty. I'm pretty sure it was Liberty. I'm pretty sure he's the one that actually took a plea deal. And the other three were convicted. Well, I was also told that no one liked him. They didn't think very much of him as anything, really. So, I'm not sure, and that did hurt them, because he confessed. He said, when they took away the immunity, he said he went for a plea deal and basically just signed whoever was in front of him.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So all of this stuff that you're saying, like, half of this stuff isn't public information.
No.
That's insane. Like, I didn't know that these police or insurgents or whatever, they were actually pushing the Kia, or that Liberty signed the plea deal to get the others taken down as well.
Yeah, and the strange thing about that is that statement about the police using the Kia for coverage is actually, I got off the news in 2008. But do you see how they flipped the script on it? Right.
Yeah. You don't see anything about that today.
Right. They dressed it up as a doctor and her poor son that was. And I'm not trying to say that they had anything to do with the attack, but it was actually, whether they're police or insurgents, they were actually pushing the vehicle towards the truck, the armored truck, while shooting at it using it as cover.
Right. I know after a federal court dismissed the manslaughter charges against Slatton for the second time, prosecutors charged Nick with the murder of the Kia driver, even though Slow was the one that killed him.
Right.
But if the police or insurgents or whoever they were pushing the Kia, why were they firing into the Kia to begin with?
Well, try and imagine that there's a vehicle in front of you, and I'm at the trunk of the vehicle shooting over the vehicle at you. You're going to want to return fire.
Right.
So they were trying to shoot. Unfortunately, the civilians were in the way, but it's either shoot it and somehow hit the people that are shooting at you, or you don't get to go home. You die.
Right. And no one's got perfect accuracy. That makes sense.
No, and that's especially in mobile firefight.
Right.
It's just it was a bad situation. It's unfortunately it's terrible that civilians were injured in the process. But it's my heart definitely goes out to them, because I've seen the aftermath of what happens when civilians are attacked, and it's terrible to see. So I'm not trying to downplay anything on family, but it's. Again, when your own police force uses, or insurgents, and so the insurgents, the way they operate is, even if they cause a death, of a civilian, they'll turn around and say, "See, if the Americans weren't here, we would have never done that. That person would still be alive."
Right.
That's the way they certain and they
Manipulating
gladly
the masses.
blow up. I'm sorry.
Manipulating the masses.
Absolutely, and they'll blow up a market in the middle of the day, which of course only the men work, or predominantly only the men work. So the market's only full of women and their children. Well, they go in the middle of the day, they'll blow up a market, and then claim responsibility. Say, "Yep, that was us, and we would not have done that if the Americans would leave." Their own population they don't even care about.
Wow. So I've also read that the FBI allowed the Afghan government and local police to handle the investigation, at least initially. Is that accurate?
I actually remember the FBI going out there because I had read up on this when this happened, because I was fixing to go into the same thing, and it was the FBI was actually, now they had probably were working side by side, but my understanding was FBI and DOJ that were leading the investigation, which would make sense because all the evidence had to go to the embassy, at the State Department at the embassy.
Right. But the Afghan colonel who was in charge of the investigation on the Afghanistan side apparently has ties to Iranian terrorist organizations. Is that an uncommon occurrence?
Absolutely not. Let me tell you how uncommon, how common that is. We had a parliament member when I was there. He had ran for parliament and won, and helped Maliki retain re-election.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Makata al-Sadr. Now, a lot of people will sit there and say, "Wait a minute, that sounds like the name of the guy that ran the terrorist group Jamaat al-Mahdi's army, which was responsible for most of the American deaths between 2006 and 2008.
Right.
The reason why the name sounds similar is because it's the exact same guy, who later on even ran for prime minister, even though he had an active warrant for his arrest for killing a rival cleric. As a matter of fact, during the nighttime, Ministry of Defense, Jamaat, we call it JAM, but it's short for Jamaat al-Mahdi's army. They would use the government building to run operations. I mean, these guys, it was well known that they're a terrorist organization, and people knew them, so much so they even wore rings. They had rings, like membership rings.
Oh my gosh.
That they wore them proudly all the time.
It's like watching a Marvel movie where Hydra's hiding in plain sight in the middle of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, right, exactly. So it's these guys. They're people know. It's just trying to think of a good analogy on that one, because it's strange to us, but to them it's cultural. But I can't think of a good analogy. But they're some people like them. They don't see them as being a terrorist group, even though you walk around and shoot at Americans and blow up their vehicles. Yeah, or if you go to a Sunni neighborhood and set off a car bomb to kill civilians because they're Shiites, that's extremely common.
Right.
But they're not looked down on, not like Al Qaeda or ISIS. And primarily because they were pretty local, because they were in Sadr City, which is where Makata al-Sadr lived. And yeah, they're all over Sadr City.
Wow, that's
so,
crazy.
Yeah, it's very possible that and I've seen Iraqi army and Iraqi government officials, besides Mikhail al-Assad, that had ties to terrorist organizations.
Man. So,
matter of fact, some of the money that we gave them a lot of money, and some of the money was traced back to Iran, Iranian terrorist groups. They were to camps, and even there's a manufacturer out there that builds what's called an EFP. It's basically the shape charge. It will penetrate any armor, and even tanks. So it's pretty scary stuff. And they were getting them from Iran. We traced it down to knowing the exact factory.
dang. That's insane. So honestly, it sounds like everything that the media has kind of been telling us about this case is, the Nisour Square Massacre happened, but nothing that we're being told is what happened. Nothing about it is what happened.
No. And anybody, if you ask anybody, those guys were the sacrificial lambs. The State Department had to answer for a lot of collateral damage because a common tactic is using civilians or as cover and stuff like that. People are going to get hurt. It's not
Right.
like anybody wanted to hurt an innocent person, but when you're getting shot at and they're basically using from a civilian building or vehicle or whatever, you're getting shot at, you return fire.
Right.
Sometimes bullets go through walls and stuff like that. Well, each and every time, we'd have to, State Department would have to respond. One common instance, and I see everyone talking bad about it online, is us shooting vehicles. Well, we have a big, huge sign in English and Arabic on the back saying, "Stay back 50 meters or less, otherwise deadly force will be used." So when they come up from behind of a convoy, you tell them stop, you wave, and you get their attention, and they're accelerating. We can only think that what they're doing is trying to bomb the
Right. It's probably a car bomb.
Right, because they were doing. That's why we had to start shooting. Keep vehicles away. But so you'll see guys putting rounds into a vehicle, but not understanding that they've already. When there's a step process, we have to visually tell them to stop using a hand gesture that's common to Arabic, where it's kind of you bend your hand to meet the tip of your middle ring finger, and that's telling them to stop. And we say "keef," which is Arabic for stop. Well, if they keep coming, then we are to show them our weapon, and then show the intent to use it. Now, there's no such thing as a warning shot.
Right.
So after that, so you don't just start shooting at a vehicle. You go through this process of showing that, look, you need to stay back. And then you try to shoot in the radiator, and that's trying to disable the vehicle, but
doesn't always work.
That right. The best way to stop a vehicle is to kill the driver. It's not going to shooting the radiator isn't going to stop it immediately.
Right.
Speaking of which, the getting back to the Nisour Square incident, something I wanted to definitely mention is they make it sound in the media like these guys rolled in and just started shooting people at random.
Right. Which is
They're
why.
not telling you.
Right, and that's kind of like why I originally looked into this, because I was like, why would Trump pardon 4 guys that just rolled into this traffic stop and just started blasting people?
Right. So you remember how I told you that you use the technique of shooting radiators to try and disable the vehicle.
Uh-huh.
Well, there were AK-47 rounds in the radiators of those vehicles.
Mm.
So they were trying to do the same thing to us.
Right.
Besides all over the vehicle, it was all AK-47 rounds.
Right.
But,
So
you know,
and so AK-47s are not standard issue for American soldiers, correct?
That is correct.
So it would have had to been insurgents or Iraqi police. Are AK-47s standard issue for Iraqi and Afghanistan police?
Yes.
Okay. So honestly, at that point, it could really just have been anyone.
Right. Yeah. Matter of fact, I've even seen guys that they were, security guards. They had AK-47s. They're not hard to find at all. And especially because Russia, when they left, I'm sorry, we're talking about Iraq. They're just not hard to get. Anyone can go get. I can probably get an AK-47 a lot easier than I can a good American cheeseburger. And
really?
That's very serious.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And they're actually not that expensive over there.
Right. That's insane. That these arms are so easily attainable in such a war-torn country.
Well, and that's really what makes it, because when someone dies out there, anything of value is taken off them before.
Yeah.
So yeah. And that's the first thing, because that's money or that's protection. So they're going to go for the AK first.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So, I think last question, and then I'll let you go. I had mentioned that this 9-year-old boy had been killed, and there's a real popular show on Netflix for a while called The Ranch, and one of the guys on the show was in the army for a while. On the show, his character was. He was talking about how it's not uncommon for these insurgents to send little kids out into the middle of the road strapped with IEDs. And so you're really not left with much of a choice than to just run them over or gun them down, because you don't know whether or not that kid's going to blow you up. Is that true? How often does that happen?
With IEDs, that one I have not heard, but they have been known to give out IEDs unknowingly. The biggest threat we had with the children is that they were. Let me. This is the second time my girlfriend called. Let me put you on hold and get her real quick.
Yeah.
It's only gonna be a minute.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay, Tim, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what they would do is they would take real weapons, real pistols or rifles, and paint them to look like a kid's toy.
Oh my.
And then tell them to, run up at the Americans and shoot them. So now you don't know if it's a toy gun or if it's a real gun.
Right.
And either way, you just killed the kid. That was one of our biggest threats out there. Now, what I meant about giving people IEDs unknowingly is obviously in a country with a large amount of unemployment, people will respond to jobs. Well, one time they had put out a posting for personal drivers, and a lot of people applied. So they sent about 12 guys. They gave them a vehicle. They said, "Okay, go to this address and you're picking up this person." Well, they would go to that address, but they didn't know that they had an IED in the back of the car, and it blew up.
Right. Drive to this location. I'll give you this amount of money. No questions asked.
Right. Right.
Dang.
You know, and they think it's a legit job, so they don't know. So they, you know, they drive up and they'll have either a team watching for the vehicle and they'll remote detonate it, or it'll be on a timer. So yeah, we had like 12 car bombs. I think it was a lot that day. As a matter of fact, I was out in the middle of Baghdad, and they shut us down and told us to go back to base immediately. Wouldn't tell us why, and we had known that there was car bombs going off because, you know, we heard them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, when we finally got in, you know, you got to remember that when one bomb goes off, it creates congestion for the entire city. So we're trying to get back to the embassy. Well, they didn't want to tell us that we were what was going on. I don't know why, but yeah, because there was a bunch of more car bombs. It was like a lot that day, you know.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I had no idea all of this was going on. Thanks for sharing all of that.
Oh, sure.
So, all right. Well, I'll thank you for your time, and I'll let you get back to your day. And have a good rest of your day. Have a happy New Year, and thank you for your service.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it, man. And yeah, if you ever need to ask any more questions, just hit me up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.
Bye.